Another banger video from 6. We're gonna check this shit out, and I hope you guys are ready. I'm ready. It's basically the scaling video based upon the new manga one shot from Minato. We got insane scaling from Minato, ridiculous scaling. As a fucking teen, okay, fatigued and nerfed, okay, not even at full power, and severely injured, the motherfucker has feats and being able to combat against full power Ninetales with his incomplete Rasengan, and also apparently be on the level of Hashirama, which is ridiculous, okay? Insane scaling for Minato. That changes so many things, and that's a domino effect and connects to so many goddamn characters. So we're gonna get into this video. I hope you guys are ready. Let's get it. Let's go.
No living being should ever eat processed food for every single meal of their life. Good, real...
Fuck is up with these ads, bro?
Till Beast Bomb in the first few.
I was a little bit
Minato is the
advanced because I was like wanting a sneak peek and I was about 2 minutes in. That was a long time ago. But anyways, we're gonna get into it. Let's
ultimate shinobi. Recently, Minato got his own special one-shot manga, and I have yet to talk about it, and it's long overdue. The manga follows Minato when he's a 14 or 15-year-old kid, and we get to learn some extra stuff about the Rasengan, why it was created, and where exactly he got the idea from. We also get some pretty nice statements in regard to Minato's power and what he's capable of. Let's not waste any more time though. Before we get started, I'd like to ask if you could leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel, as I greatly appreciate it. The manga starts off pretty insane. You have Team Jiraiya sitting in front of 2 Jinchuriki charging up tailed beast bombs. I'll establish a timeline for this in a bit, as there is one key detail in indicating when this manga takes place. The details of this confrontation are completely unknown to us. We don't know if Minato was fighting these guys along with his team or whatever, but it's pretty clear that they've at least been in battle with someone. Minato is breathing heavy in the very first panel of the manga, and he has cracks in his headband and scratches all over his face along with the rest of his team. So I think it's pretty safe to say that they're pretty tired at this point in time. Han and Roshi don't seem to have any scratch marks on them, so it does kind of make it seem like this is more of an ambush, and their dialogue of saying that if Minato and the others really want to fight them, they should have brought the Ninetales Jinchuriki. This could imply a number of things, maybe that they were on a mission to get these tailed beasts and they were ambushed by them after fighting a different battle. Maybe they were already fighting Han and Roshi and got beat up. Who really knows? Although I doubt Roshi could beat Jiraiya up since he got beat up by Kisame, or maybe this version of Jiraiya is just weaker than Kisame, not even Kisame level.
Who knows? Yeah, we don't know.
Han is actually pretty strong, especially when he's using boil release,
yes.
But for the sake of not assuming too much, just going with the fact that they were all fatigued when this started, and I'll just leave it there. I think it's also worth noting Minato still has to use hand signs to teleport with his flying Raijin at this point in time. It just shows that he's not as proficient with the jutsu as we see him when he was in the main series. This is a possible retcon with this next part though. We're told in the main series that it took Minato 3 years to develop the Rasengan and another 6 months to perfect it. But in this manga, they make it seem like he did it within like 2 days or so. Kushina is excited to train with Minato again for the day, but Minato says he has to go work on the jutsu.
I think this is what it is. I don't think necessarily it's a retcon. I think what happened is it took like 2 days for Minato to be able to use Rasengan, right? But it was still incomplete. But it took him 3 years to master the Rasengan and use it to full efficiency. I think that's the disconnect. But that's just, arguing a possibility territory.
That's unfinished with Jiraiya and Training Ground 3. And then later on this day, he masters the Rasengan. This is after seeing a tail beast power for the first time with the tail beast bomb in the first few pages, which is where he got the idea for the jutsu in the first place. Minato's team also tells him they need to go report their mission to Lord Third. I guess it's possible he's talking about another mission they went on.
Once again, I'm just gonna be honest with you. 6 just showed the fucking scan. That shit looks like a fucking very complete Rasengan, So, I don't know, bro. It probably is a retcon.
One off screen and not the one from the first page. But it does seem like he's referencing that, since that's the mission we saw them go on at the beginning of the manga. So unless the first scene in the manga takes place 3 years before the rest of the manga, this is a retcon. And I do also just want to say, Kishimoto draws the difference between 12 and 15-year-olds very distinctively. The characters from part 1 to Shippuden perfectly illustrate this idea. Let me explain why that's important, but to do that I'll have to show you how I got to the conclusion of Minato's age. In the same scene where Minato is talking to Kushina, we see Kakashi, Guy, and Obito talking to each other in the background. None of them have their ninja headbands on, so it can be concluded that they aren't out of the academy yet. Although we do know that they are in the academy because Guy and Kakashi know each other and they met at the sign-ups for the academy. So it's probably after they enrolled, so they're around 4 to 5 years old. And considering Minato is 10 years older than Kakashi, that makes him 14 or 15 at the time of this manga. Or at least at the time of this panel. So if the other mission was 3 years ago...
Very good details to notice. Very good.
Then Minato should be 12 at the beginning of this manga. These two panels are direct on face shots of Minato at the 2 points in time I'm talking about. The one on the left would be allegedly 3 years from before the one on the right. He looks the same age to me. I'll show a few examples of Kishimoto drawing a character going from 12 to 15 years old to illustrate this a little bit more. Here is Kakashi at 12 and then 14. Here is Naruto at 12 and then 15. Here is Sakura at 12 and then 15. And here is Sasuke at 12 and then 15. All of them look much different between these two ages, so I'm not buying that this first scene was from 3 years ago. So I'm calling a retcon, but that's whatever. Minato learned the Rasengan in a few days as opposed to 3 years. Guess that just makes him more of a prodigy, I suppose. Then we get a callback to part 1 when Jiraiya and Minato are training, and Jiraiya talks about kneading your chakra in the direction of the whirl on your hair, just like he does with Naruto when Naruto is learning the Rasengan. We learn that Minato has 2 whirls, and this is a sign of a genius and gives Minato an incredible grasp of ninjutsu, which I guess makes sense with the fact that he forms the Rasengan after learning this information, and he just has to knead the chakra in both directions at the same time. This is effectively the human version of a tailed beast bomb, and he's already got the flying Raijin at this point. I just wanted to take note of the fact that
imagine using flying Raijin and then with a tail fucking beast bomb in your hand and just killing people.
is watching Minato at this point in his training doing the Rasengan and whatnot, but that'll become important later. Minato decides to name the jutsu the Ice Pop inspired Nimbus Jiraiya Twin Worlds.
That motherfucker was tweaking with these names, bro. Like, he does it in the war, he does it in this shit. He does.
Which is an absolutely awful name. It's the worst jutsu name I've ever heard, but to be fair, its competition was another jutsu name for Minato, the Scorch Style Nimbus Gale Jet Black Arrow Formation Zero. So yeah, definitely Minato's weakest attribute. We then get from Minato's perspective the reason he created the Rasengan in the first place, and that's to protect Kushina. He says, we're in the middle of a war and we don't know when we might be sent to the battlefield. That's why I wanted to give you a new jutsu that is specialized for battles against Biju and Jinchuriki, and works in concert with your own Jinchuriki chakra volume. Then he says he doesn't want to lose her, and in an emotionally vulnerable moment, Kurama starts trying to take over Kushina's body, similarly to how he did Naruto. Minato calls it out as tailed beast mode or beatrification, and then gets hit by Kurama's tail off guard and sent flying. I just want to take note of the fact that Kurama's chakra, before getting tamed and rid of its hatred, is still acting like a poison. This is shown whenever he hits Sakura during the fight between Orochimaru and the Four Tails. Just to take into account moving forward that Minato is essentially poisoned going on. Kurama tries to
and fatigued
strike Kushina with his tail, but it's suddenly stopped by a ceiling barrier, and Kurama doesn't know who it is, but it's obviously Minato. Now is where the controversy comes in. I'm going to give more than one translation for this because it's one of the main points of controversy, but at least in the Viz original release for the one shot, Kurama says the brat, he's not of the Uzumaki clan, and yet he's augmenting the tetragram seal in his own style, a most powerful shinobi ranking alongside first Hokage Hashirama. Unbelievable. Then he asks Minato why a shinobi of his caliber is fussing over Kushina. Now obviously this statement is a big deal. I mean, it says Minato ranks along Hashirama in terms of power, but there is obviously some context that needs to be taken into account here. Among the community, there are 4 different trends.
Do you want a satisfying, remote-friendly job that pays well? Become a software engineer in
Translations of this statement, and I'm going to talk about all of them, so calm down before you comment on how I left one out. These translations come from Viz, which is the official, OP Scans, which is a pirating website, ChatGPT, an AI that can translate Japanese, and a guy named 02 who I talked to personally to try and figure some of this stuff out. He goes to college for Japanese and is a translator for the character stats wiki if you want a reason as to why I went to him. Before getting into those different translations though, let's add a bit of context in before Kurama made this statement. This is something that's not necessarily shown, but I think it's for the most part very much so implied. I think it's implied that Kurama was watching Minato as well while he was training. After hitting Minato away, Kurama tells Kushina that he told her not to trust anyone and that Minato would eventually come to use her as well. This is after Minato essentially said that he made the Rasengan for Kushina to use whenever she has to fight in the war and to complement her giant chakra due to being a Jinchuriki. Things he did because he doesn't want to lose her. These words could be interpreted in a manipulative, twisted way, like Minato is saying he finds value in Kushina as a weapon for the leaf and he doesn't want to lose that weapon. This is obviously not how Minato meant it, but Kurama, who hates humans and had only been used by them up to this point, likely thinks that's where it will end up. Now, does Kurama have to see Minato using the Rasengan to come to this conclusion? No, I suppose he could just be saying that him making a jutsu for Kushina at all is just him using her as a weapon. I think that knowing Kurama can see outside of his Jinchuriki and that he's been actively trying to break out of Kushina this entire day, and that the seal started weakening as soon as she left the barrier, he was probably alert and paying attention. This I bring up to combat the interpretation that Kurama is talking about only sealing in terms of how Minato is Hashirama's level. Now, I know I'm getting ahead of myself here, but one thing that is consistent throughout all 4 translations I mentioned is that they all use the general term of shinobi being on par with Hashirama or Hashirama's generation. I think the fact that Kurama doesn't specify a category in any of these translations and then later asks why a shinobi of Minato's caliber is fussing over Kushina, that he's probably just talking about overall ability. He made the Rasengan, which is like a human Biju bomb. Kurama saw him use it and then he placed a ceiling on Kushina that held Kurama back. It's also possible Kurama is claiming you need to be Hashirama level in order for you to do something like what Minato is doing, since, just being real, Hashirama has 0 sealing feats in terms of sealing something away. I know the first thought is that he sealed away Kurama, but that's not true either. During the fight between Madara and Hashirama, Hashirama's
Hashirama doesn't have any fucking sealing. He doesn't have any of that. The only thing he's ever done is he has jutsu scaling in power to suppress the Nine Tail with his wood style. Okay, he has like a suppression type ability, a seal thing, but he can't seal anyone. He can't do any sealing or anything like that. As a matter of fact, in the war arc, he deadass says verbatim, "Hey, get some sealing, Shinobi, so we can seal up Madara. I have him restrained with my wood style." He can only suppress the Nine Tails. He can't seal the Nine Tails. That was the whole reason why his wife, you know what I mean, is there to begin with, because she has all the sealing jutsus and she has the special chakra in order to contain Kurama. You know what I mean? So for someone just to flat out be like, oh, it has to be sealing or whatever, but that's retarded. It's clearly blatantly talking about Minato's ability and power. Like, it's just that fucking simple. He has to have the ability, or aka the jutsu, and the power to be able to go against the Nine Tails. That is blatantly a Hashirama level feat. We see that with Hashirama against the Nine Tails, you know? So it's not rocket science.
Wife Mito Uzumaki came onto the battlefield and sealed Kurama into herself, becoming the first Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. Kushina tells Naruto this during his training to tame Kurama. The first thought would be, how does Kushina know that? But this new manga provides us with more evidence that she probably does, because we see that she talks to Mito frequently.
Yep.
Another thing I want to point out is Kurama's choice of wording just prior to the Hashirama level statement to provide a bit more context. He says this brat isn't even Uzumaki, but he's enhancing the tetragram seal in his own style. A couple things. For one, we never see Hashirama ever enhance a tetragram seal.
Nope.
And the war arc implies he knows no sealing jutsu to actually put something away. Before you get your pitchforks ready about how King Hashirama
I say, bring up the war arc as well.
does no sealing, yes, I am aware of the deity gates and the 4 Crimson Ray barrier. That's why I am specifically talking about sealing someone or something away inside another person or object, not just sealing in general. The deity gates particularly have the best feat of holding down the 10 tails. What most people don't know, however, about that is that the head seal takes away your will to oppose, so the 10 tails wasn't fighting to get out and instead started making clones and whatnot. He also uses this on Madara later on in the war, while claiming that he needs to wait for sealing shinobi to actually seal him away.
Yep.
Then the 4 Crimson Ray barrier, it's pretty obvious.
So meaning, once again, Hashirama could use that red gate to hit down on the Nine Tails and just keep it there, you know what I mean? To try to like stop him, whatever. But the Nine Tails could still be able to use its jutsus or shoot a Biju Bomb, which is why he doesn't even do that, because it's counterintuitive. Okay? Or he could use his Wood Golem, has a seal, right? Touch the Nine Tails, put it to fucking sleep and suppress it. You know what I mean? He can't just pull a fucking Ken and Gin moment and just seal, you know what I mean? Or he can't just pull a Minato and seal, and or fucking, you know, a Kushina, seal, you know what I mean? Like, he can't do that shit.
This doesn't seal things away.
So meaning there's no way it's talking about sealing only. That's stupid.
It's just a barrier. Anyway, I'm just trying to say Hashirama is not so good at sealing, so I don't like the interpretation that Kurama is comparing Minato's sealing to his.
That's retarded.
I also want to mention that there is no proof whatsoever that Kurama ever saw Hashirama using a sealing jutsu.
Yeah.
The most we know Hashirama used on Kurama was this wood release jutsu through his wood human to put Kurama to sleep.
Yep.
However, who are also some non-Uzumakis from Hashirama's time that could hold Kurama in some way.
Yep.
These 2 guys, Madara and Hashirama, at least that we know of.
Yep.
Now, just being honest, even as a Minato
Yeah, Madara is a Sharingan. Hashirama is the wood style.
hype beast, I think it's kind of ridiculous
Minato is just sealing or Rasengan.
to say that Minato hits as hard as Hashirama. However, Minato being able to accomplish similar things as Hashirama, like holding back the 9 tails with sealing jutsu, whereas Hashirama could tame it with wood release,
And also combating it against with Rasengan and incomplete while fatigued and severely injured. Hashirama also combats against the Nine Tails of Wood style.
and Madara could control it with his Sharingan. Saying Minato ranks alongside those guys that way sounds a bit more reasonable and consistent
Yes.
with the rest of the series.
Absolutely.
Remember, powerful doesn't have to pertain to punching or kicking strength. It can also mean that, at least according to Merriam-Webster, having great power, prestige, or influence, with the word power most commonly meaning the ability to make things happen.
Yep.
With Minato being able to hold back the 9 tails with his sealing jutsu, as well as possessing the Rasengan that Kurama should have seen. So I think Kurama is saying a guy like this with the Rasengan, I know it's not called the Rasengan yet, but yeah, and sealing jutsu of this level is ranking alongside Hashirama. I wonder if maybe later in the chapter the Rasengan will get a feat that shows how strong
Why do I have subtitles? I don't need subtitles. That shit pisses me off.
it can be. Now, like I said, that's just with the Viz
It's off.
translation, and
The
we have
fuck?
3 more to go over. But
I
don't
think
worry,
6 put
they
it in
won't
there.
be nearly as long, and I'll rapid fire them and go over them all at once. OP Scan says a shinobi of the caliber of the first Hokage Hashirama. There are others like him still around. 02 says there is still such a shinobi since the time of Hashirama of the first generation. And ChatGPT says a shinobi on par with the first Hokage Hashirama, such a person still exists. Like I mentioned earlier, it's very consistent for all these translations to talk about as a shinobi and not specify any specific thing. There is some stuff to talk about here, but my interpretation isn't really going to change from any of these translations. A shinobi of the caliber of the first Hokage Hashirama, the one from OP Scans. This one is virtually the same as the Viz translation, save for the exclusion of the word powerful, but after looking into it, that word isn't in the original kanji anyway, so that was likely just Viz taking liberties when it comes to translating. There is still such a shinobi since the time of Hashirama of the first generation. This is from the conversation I had with an actual person who speaks Japanese. I'll put some of the highlights of that conversation on screen so you can pause and read if you want to. But he says why he thinks this is the best way to translate this scan. This translation differs the most, so I'm gonna have to talk a
Okay, in the case, whatever. Okay.
A little bit more about it inevitably, but the part that sticks out the most is Kurama saying since the time of Hashirama of the first generation, rather than saying since Hashirama specifically. But again, that's not really going to change my interpretation. The shinobi we know from back then that can control the Nine Tails were Hashirama and Madara. And if you want to throw her in there, Mito Uzumaki as well.
Yes.
Since Kurama
and Kushina
mentions non-Uzumaki though, I wouldn't, but yeah. My interpretation would just be saying Minato is around that level through Rasengan and Sealing Jutsu combo.
Yep.
When I talked to Zero 2 more about the Hashirama of the first generation part, he did
man spitting facts, baby! Round of applause for Mr. Six. Amen. Alright, let's conclude this video.
tell me that within the context of Naruto, it is possible to interpret that as saying Hokage. There is still such a shinobi since the first Hokage Hashirama. Again, basically the same thing. And then ChatGPT, which here it gives its breakdown on why it translated it the way it did, and I'll leave that on screen for everyone to read. After this, Minato tells Kurama he likes strong people stronger than him. I think including context from Kurama, Minato is talking about mental strength and not physical power or anything. I mean, Kurama is literally saying, why is someone as strong as you or of your level worried about someone like this? And Kurama, being Kushina's Jinchuriki, should know how strong she is. Kushina gets a mental imp and starts wrapping Kurama up in chains, but that only makes him more mad and he starts ripping the chains, causing Kushina to go into V2. Then he cleaves straight through Minato's chest. But just to mention, not only has Minato been training all day, he's currently enhancing a seal, was struck at the chest off guard earlier, and can't really move to dodge or he'd have to release his sealing hand. On top of that, Kurama also hits him with his claws, and obviously piercing damage is stronger than...
Alright, that I'm just gonna flat out say that's not true at all. That's a misconception. And just a pointer real quick, I'm going to actually be making a video about durability, of how durability actually works in Naruto. I have tons and tons of evidence and tons of stuff, and basically to show how like any shinobi is basically human level unless they apply chakra to their body in order to increase their durability, because they can be able to blatantly do that. Minato, whenever he's being struck, he is not applying chakra to his body to increase his durability. So meaning he just has basically blatant human durability to where he's just like us, can get cut by paper, you name it, whatever the fuck it is. And that's why he has that. And a lot of people try to be sophist or rats or misconstrued that and be blatantly dishonest or not transparent. And for some reason, Six is also like, he's not, but see that there's a difference with Six. He's not doing that to be dishonest. I think he's just doing that because he's trying to be like as transparent as possible or as fair as possible and not biased or anything, whatever. And he just believes that Minato just has bad durability. And there's nothing wrong with that either. But if you actually really, really analyze Naruto overall as a whole, Minato actually doesn't have bad durability. He would actually have very, very incredible durability. And there is an abundance amount of evidence to conclude that definitively, okay? Like not even possibility-wise or anything, no, like definitively, okay? And eventually that video will be made, and I hope you guys will enjoy it. But just putting that out there. I am in the works with doing that. A friend of mine called Shinobi, he's also going to basically be in that video with me and kind of give his thoughts and you name it, whatever, just for any contentious value, whether if there's potential disagreements or for him just to add on to the notions as well for how durability works, etc., etc. But Minato does not have bad durability. I can't stand that.
Blunt force, and V2 specifically is stated to be really condensed chakra, so it's not like this is a basic attack, as well as the fact that, like I mentioned, Minato is essentially getting poisoned here. We then see Minato enter the seal where Kurama is stored, which is pretty consistent for him. He did it with Naruto, and you can see he's just a chakra ghost here with the little flames of chakra coming off his skin. Yeah. Then we're getting back into controversial territory as Kushina tightens her chains on Kurama and Minato clashes with the tailed beast bomb. For one, let's get it out of the way that the tailed beast bomb is incomplete and Kushina's chains are on Kurama. That much is true, and it's enough to say that this isn't completely his full power. However, this bomb is still bigger than the one used on Pain, and bigger than the one that Orochimaru said could end his life if it hit him. despite his regeneration, and it also knocked over 3 deity gates. Pain also didn't even get hit by the full-tailed beast bomb. As you can see here, Pain lands and the Six Tails gets up on him. When it starts forming the bomb, Pain interrupts it and shoots it off way over there to behind the Hokage heads. It blows up and then the explosion gets bigger.
So, alright, let's take a look at this. Pain's right there, Naruto's right there, the bomb's right there. How the fuck does Pain end up all the way up here? I don't get any of this. I've had other people try to tell me this too, but that doesn't make sense to me. If Pain is right here, like we see them, like they're right next to each other, right fucking there, and everything blows up, and then we literally see Pain standing and his entire Katsu cloak is all fucked up, and he clearly like withstand the Biju bomb. How the fuck does he not tank that completely? I don't understand that. At least Six is saying that like he kind of took it in a way and not completely, but I don't understand that. Like, unless I'm tripping, I don't know. Like, if you look right there, bro, I don't know.
And eventually gets over the Pain again.
Look at that shit. Look at that big ass explosion, bro. Shit's massive.
At the very least, I'm saying Minato should be able to one-shot all of those guys, the signing level people in Pain with his Rasengan.
Yep.
Because he got stronger after this, as he had 10 more years to train and fight. And if you don't believe the retcon,
and imagine a Rasengan being more bigger. Imagine a massive Rasengan from Minato, or just like more, or the size that Naruto did against Itachi's 30% clone with a QB amp. You know what I mean? Like, imagine that Rasengan. You know what I mean? How much fucking power that shit's gonna have. Or once again, a massive Rasengan, or a super massive Rasengan.
I mentioned earlier, then he still hasn't perfected this Rasengan. There's also some controversy surrounding if Kurama is at full power inside the seal. I think that this is kind of stupid, especially since that it revolves around Naruto's performance against the Nine Tails when he's in Sage mode. But not only did Naruto not do good against the Nine Tails before Kushina's interference, this is literally where the Nine Tails is sealed away at. All of its power is put to this spot. These people are entering the seal, not entering somewhere where Kurama also exists. There was also some talk about the Eight Tails catching the Nine Tails Biju bomb within this realm, but I just want to say that this also doesn't have to be a full power Biju bomb that he captured, and nothing implies that it is. It isn't large or anything like that. It's not even as large as the one that skinny Kurama makes later on. Minato also had to win this clash with the Nine Tails, because if he didn't, Kurama would have just kept coming and eventually got out, since he already had Nine Tails of version 2 out of Kushina and had taken over her body. So that's it for the controversy. At the absolute lowest, I see the feat going, and if you don't want to take Pain's example because the tailed beast bomb, even though it wasn't complete and from a weaker Nine Tails, actually exploded, the Orochimaru example should still suffice, and Minato should be able to one-shot signing.
I'm gonna do that. So
I do just
incredible video, really, really good. If I had to rate it, I'd say 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10. But if I was being nice and just overall 10 out of 10, you guys already know the vibes. I'm just very nitpicky with things, whatever you name it. I'm not even perfect myself. What's it called? But what I will say for the most part is, towards the end at least, okay, when it comes to the Nine Tails, one thing I can add to it that's a very big deal, the size that the Nine Tails did against Minato as a teen was the exact same size that he did against Hashirama. And Hashirama blocked it with the wood golem hand instead of a Rasengan, and then a huge explosion happened. Okay, while fucking Minato does it with a fucking baby ass Rasengan, incomplete, you know what I mean? And then literally fucking just does that shit, like that crazy ass feat. And Madara had to use Susanoo to protect himself. Hashirama had to use wood style to protect himself. You know what I mean? So the fact that Minato can withstand the clash and the recoil of that exchange and somehow survive the explosion, okay, and then somehow not be dead and the Nine Tails is dealt with, whether if somehow some other people just came to help or Minato actually beat him, we don't know. That's just blatant off-screen and possibility interpretation territory at that point. Bottom line is we really don't know. You could argue the higher possibility of that Minato was the reason why he was defeated, and that's why everybody was okay, but we really don't know. For all we know, Jiraiya could have came. For all we know, Hiruzen, who the fuck knows? You know what I mean? But bottom line is, somehow, some way, they survived, and that is a feat itself. We've seen plenty of examples of what happens if your body can't be able to withstand the recoil of two jutsus combating each other, such as Chidori against Rasengan, you name it, etc., etc. I'm not going to get all into the details. I don't want to repeat myself from the other reactions I've done for the Minato new manga one-shot. But yeah, so just kind of put that out there. And I'm also going to be giving... Eventually, I will make my own Minato scaling video of how powerful he actually is. And I might actually even do that with a friend of mine as well, with Ken Rock. And that might be fun to even do together, but eventually I am going to be doing a video like that, and it'd be pretty cool to talk about. But yeah, so overall, very great video, really good overall. I really didn't have to do that many pauses either, because it's just straight fucking facts and fire, bro. Like, it was just such a great video. Well done. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't even sense any bias. I didn't even sense any dishonest or bullshit or whatever, you know, yada yada. The only gripe I really had was the durability shit, but other than that, it's not a big deal, you know. So but yeah, it was really great. Really fucking great. Overall, Minato is a goddamn beast. Everybody should know that at this point, but there's just tons of sophists or rats or dishonest or blatant just idiots that actually think Minato and Pain just suck. You know what I mean? Which blows my mind to this day. But there's actually a certain percentage in the Naruto community that actually believe in that shit. It's only the 5% of the Naruto community, to be fair. The other 95 obviously knows the dealio, but there are idiots out there. So, but anyways, hope you guys enjoyed.